And see where it goes. Don't take off your clothes. It's not that serious. I'll give you some examples, and then we'll slowly just build things up. Because your question is one that's been around for a long, long, long time. But before tackling your question, let me first, if I can, in a clear way, just tell you how you should think about things, anything. Because when you walk into life, you have forces. Some you can see and some you can see. But these forces will touch you nevertheless. And they'll have negative or positive impacts. And if you don't know what to do with the negative impacts, you'll just be crushed. You know, you're young enough today to say, Alex, you're young enough and privileged enough and entitled enough to say, I am in a relationship. I no longer find it meaningful, riveting, exciting, and therefore I want to leave it. I want to put it behind me and start fresh. You can do that because you are 18. Because you're still in the process of figuring out who you are, what you are. Your sense of commitment doesn't really have deep roots. You kind of just wing it. You're not responsible for anyone except your own emotions. So it doesn't matter whose skull you step on, you know, because, and it's your right. You know, you're just kind of moving through life to figure out where you fit exactly. My story, Russell's story, we are very, very, very different. I may want to leave my wife. I may want to leave my kids. But I can't be like you. First, I'm not 18. Second, I have emotions you don't have. I have children. Therefore, my sense of empathy has deeper roots than yours. Then when my kids look at me and say, Dad, you're leaving me for what? Another woman? You're leaving us for what? To go to the woods and think about what? Life? How can you be that selfish? So I get reprimanded by 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 20-year-olds, because what I'm doing is improper, do you see? So these are the emotions you don't have. And then there is my wife, for example, or Russell's wife. I mean, remember, when I talk about Russell, I'm also talking about myself. When I talk about myself, I'm talking about Russell. And it's important for you to know that these are emotions you simply don't have currently. And whether or not you will have them depends on how your life unfolds. And no one knows how your life is going to turn out. Okay? So, when we talk about stuff in this class, you can take two approaches. You can be a narcissist. You could make this class about you, or you can make this class about ideas and your desire to understand ideas as opposed to swim in your own infantile emotions. And these days, everybody has trigger points. You know, you can't talk about anything to anyone anymore because they're going to explode. You don't want to do that. Because if you start doing this at the age of 18, you will not be able to survive life. Okay. So let me tell you, share with you the story that comes from Buddhism. And I have stolen the story from Chris. Because Chris one day came to my office and said, Amir, you're not doing Buddhism the right way. I want to explain it to you. And when he told me this, he was 20. I was like 55, 56. I said, okay, Chris, let me have it. And he sits me down. We're holding hands at this point because he knows I'm going to like break down. And he tells me the story about death. And then, sure enough, I break down. I kiss his hand, his forehead, his cheeks, and I force him to leave my office. Well, what were you laughing? It was funny. I'm a funny man. So Chris, you correct me, please, if I'm wrong. There is a mother who has raised her son for about 35 years. Are you a mother, Ivy? Are you a father, Ivy? Man, you're so poor. Rich in many ways, but poor in different ways. You see Russell here? You know what he has that you don't got? When his son was born, he said, I'm going to be the best father. I'm going to make sure no harm ever comes to my son or my daughter. I want to give them the best of everything that life has to offer. And as he spent time with his son, he began to care for him more. Father is a little different. You know, mothers, kids grow inside them, so they're attached. Fathers, they slowly have to move in and create the attachment and the love. It comes to us a little bit more difficult. It happens eventually, if everything goes well, you know, but it's a little bit more difficult, okay? And remember, I'm not sharing with you my personal experiences. These are like universal themes. They're like epics. Are there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely. But for the most part, fathers are on the outside. It takes time for them to create a bona fide relationship with their kids, to love them, to care for them, okay? So this mom has raised this kid, and she has all these hopes and dreams for him, man. She goes even to the extent of thinking that when I get to be 70 or 80 or 90, when I'm not walking, where I'm sick, my son will stay with me. You know, they have a saying in Persian, girls stay, boys leave. That when you get to be 25, 26, you turn to your parents and say, Mom, Dad, I'm going to Yale. I'll see you in like 10 years. Your sister says, Mom, Dad, I'm going to Yale. I'm going to get a ticket. I'll be back in about 2 weeks. Again, if the relationships are healthy enough. So she is blessed with a son who really loves her. And she fantasizes about when he's going to get married, the sort of house he's going to buy, if he's going to give her a room, how it feels for her to become a grandmother. Those dreams have not yet been realized, but she dreams of them nevertheless. And then one morning, she knocks on his door and says, breakfast is ready. She waits, he doesn't show up. Breakfast is ready. He doesn't come. He opens the door, goes inside, and comes to realize his son is dead. Her son is dead. You know, if you have a cell phone and all your contact information is in that cell phone, and your diary is in that cell phone, and you have pictures in that cell phone, and it's the pictures of your parents, of the people you have loved, and your parents have passed, the people you've cared for and loved, they've also passed, or they're just no longer around. So when you lose your cell phone, it's like you have lost 30 years of your history. You don't really know who you are anymore. You know, every time you sit in the bathroom, you just look at the pictures. Every time you sit in this class, you look at the pictures. You and your cell phone are in a very, very tight relationship. Okay? And that's how this mother is. She wakes up, knocks on the door, the son doesn't come out, and he's dead. You know, some things in life disturb you. Some things in life disturb you that make you angry. Some things in life disturb you that create frustration, anxiety. Some things upset you, move you into hatred, maybe even violence. Some things disturb you enough to push you into sadness. Some things disturb you and push you into sorrow, and then despair, and then depression. Are you listening to me? So, this woman says, I want my son back. You know, when we break up with someone, or someone breaks up with us, we call them and we say, I'll do anything. I want you back. I'll do anything to resurrect the relationship. I know it's been hemorrhaging for a while, but I'm willing to breathe life into it, however way possible. So this woman in despair, and it has shades of anger and disappointment, she says to herself, where can I go so that someone can help me bring my dead son back to life? I need a Jesus who will bring Lazarus back to life. And someone tells her, you know, we have this magician in our town. His name is the Buddha. Go knock on his door. Tell him what has taken place in your life, and hopefully he'll have enough magical powers to bring him back to life. Now, the thing about the Buddha that you need to understand is when you become the Buddha, according to the Buddhist tradition, you have 7, if I remember correctly, you have 7 powers that are just given to you. You can get to see what's going on inside people without them telling you. You can read between the lines. They don't need to say much, but you can read between the lines. Okay? You can know what the things are inside them and what trigger points they have. Okay? So the Buddha has those magical powers. The other power that he has is he can bring people back to life. And you can look at this metaphorically. Like you stay in a relationship and you realize you're dead. It no longer has any life to it. You move out and you find something, another relationship that will bring you back to life. And by life, I mean excitement, hope, dreams. The woman looks at the Buddha and says, my son is dead. He's the only person I have in my life. I want him back. I know you have the power to bring him back to life. Bring him back to life. The Buddha listens. The woman is wailing, crying, screaming, and it's heart-wrenching, you know, for anyone to see a woman, a mother, just cry because she's lost a son or a daughter or a husband. What is this woman engaged in? Ivy? It's okay, I'll tell you. Yening, how are you? Are you well? It's good to see you. You know, Chris and Gening went to Laney. They were students here at Laney. They both went and got their master's degree and PhDs from various schools. They both teach now. It's good for you guys. So I'll tell you what this woman is engaged in. She has every right to be sad. She has every right to be grief-stricken. But she is what we call a narcissist. Selfish. The emotions have consumed her. She can't see straight. All she thinks about is her loss. That's all she thinks about. Have you seen that movie, Lucy? You guys are so ridiculous. There is a scene in the movie Lucy, you should go watch it. What is that? You wear a hat with a fish on it. Oh yes, do you like her? I saw it. She's hot. Anyways, there's a scene where she walks into this apartment complex. There is this man who's getting a massage, a pedicure. He's got two like cucumbers on his eyes. Ridiculous people. And then she walks in, shoots a couple of people dead, and then she takes out two knives and sticks them in his knees. And he's screaming. And he says, this is how unevolved, and I'm paraphrasing, how unevolved human beings are. All that you think about now, all you feel is pain. That's all. That whenever something sad happens to you, whenever something disappoints you, you just get stuck to that. And you miss the bigger picture. Let me give you an example. You know, on Tuesday, I spent about an hour and 10 minutes talking about Malcolm X. And then all of a sudden a hand goes up and someone says, have you read an email? Thank you, Ivy. Neon. And I say to myself, what is it about people? And Malcolm X is like the gospel, what we call good news. A story about transformation, about how filth, how iron can become gold. And then I was hoping that when a hand goes up, someone is going to talk to me or ask me a question about the story I told you for an hour and 10 minutes. But no, that wasn't the case. You were interested in gossip. Someone felt something, and you wanted to understand why he or she felt something. But you missed the bigger picture, which is how do feelings come about? And it's something we've talked about in this class. And then it makes me think, what the hell am I doing in this class? Many times I've put on the board how emotions and feelings are created, how trigger points are created, how it's not very difficult to push people into feeling and thinking about things, how I am the owner of those feelings and emotions, and how they can't overcome those feelings and emotions. And your task is to transcend that, to overcome the ways you feel and think, to look at the big picture. That's what epics are all about. That's what philosophy is all about. Try not to get consumed by the tiny little footnotes. What has this woman forgotten? She is a mother, true enough. It pains her that her son has passed. She has every right. And like everyone who's grief-stricken, what is it that she asks? I want it back. I want grief to go away and happiness to come back. I want sorrow to be removed and joy in its place. So let me tell you what the Buddha says. Now, he is known to be compassionate. If someone is crying right in front of you and is breaking your heart, the best thing you can do for this woman, given that life is short, you look at her and say, close your eyes. And when you open it, in a few moments, your son will be sitting next to you. But that's not what he does. He does something that Joaquin accused me of. He didn't really accuse me with a bad intention. He was just making an observation that, Amir, you're too abrasive. I don't like it when you're too abrasive. I'm putting words in his mouth, by the way, that's not what he said. You know what the Buddha says? Looks at her and says, I don't care. What? You are known for your compassion and your answer is, I don't care? I don't care. Well, what can I do to make you care? She asks. Okay. This is what you should do. And it's the only way I will begin to care for your grief, for you and for your life. Go knock on the doors, every single door in this town. And when the person opens the door, ask them, have you ever lost anyone in your life? A father, a mother, an aunt, uncle, a brother, a sister, a child, a cell phone, anything to which you were profoundly attached. If you find one single person who says, I have never lost anything, I have never grieved about anything, come back to me. I will bring your son back to life. And the woman goes away, comes back after 5 years, goes to the Buddha and says, remember me? She says, yeah, I remember you. That tiny little woman, a narcissist. The one who was very self-indulgent. Rightly so, but nevertheless indulgent. Your son passed, you want him back to life. So I gave you a task. What was the result? I knocked on 5 billion doors. Every person that came out said that they had lost a father, a son, a daughter, health, money, whatever. And he looks at this woman and says, immortality was reserved for the gods. Human beings cannot but suffer loss. I'm not going to bring your son back to life because that's just part of life. People are born, they live out their lives, and they die. Your task as a mother is to know what to do with grief, what to do with disappointment. So you know what the Buddha is encouraging her to do? Get over your grief. Look at the big picture. Nothing in human life lasts. Joy turns into sadness. Dreams fall apart. None of us in this class get into any relationship in hopes to see it withering away. Right, Ivy? We move in because it's exciting. It has promises. City on the hill. You don't have to be an American. You don't have to live in America to believe in the city on the hill. Tenzin as an immigrant came to America for what? Dreams and hopes. You stay in this class for one simple reason. You hope to graduate. That's city on the hill. You believe that life has promises and life is going to keep true to those promises and it's going to come true for you. It's not going to happen. Life is one disappointment after another. And if you want to just sit back and throw temper tantrums every 10 minutes, life will crush you. So what do you learn from the story of the Buddha? First, nothing lasts. If I say to you, Neon, that hat looks like shit. You can call it abrasive. You can call it offensive. I have triggered you. You feel bad, embarrassed, ashamed, angry, upset. But here's the thing you need to know. In about 2 hours' time, you will forget all about it. That emotion will be replaced by a different set of emotions. Why the hell would you want to spend all that time and energy just being focused on one single emotion that's going to ruin your entire day, if not week or month or years? And that's the message of Buddhism. Things are always transitioning. They're always moving. They're always shifting. There is nothing wrong with being depressed, as long as you know it's a thing that will pass. You just need to be patient and be mature. Wait until the sandstorm dies. Am I making sense? Remember, philosophy is not just about ideas sitting out there in the ether. It's about transformation. It's about application. What's the use of you guys coming to class, learning a few concepts, and then going home, never knowing what the hell to do with them? This class, like all the other classes, will eventually be forgotten. We'll put in the cemetery. Do you have any questions or comments before we... Excellent. I like when people don't have questions. Yes, Joaquin? Yeah, go ahead. I was just joking. It depends what the question is, because ultimately it goes back to Ivy's question. Depending on who you are, what your experiences in life has been, those factors determine what is meaningful and meaningless, what's valuable and what's valueless. So if there is a question that comes my way that says, can we talk about Cristiano Ronaldo? He's a soccer player. I'm not going to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, but I'm going to talk about Ronaldo in the context of discipline, being ambitious, having found something meaningful that works for you, soccer, and how when you're authentic to your passion, true to your passion, doors open, money will come your way. In fact, you'll be showered by money. Yeah? Right now? Yeah, we can talk about it in just a minute. Abigail and then Nayon.
For the last assignment, you asked me to redo it because I didn't realize, I guess we had to do two separate ones.
Four. There are 4 videos, so 4 different essays. It's on there, I mean, yeah. But I understand, even I don't read, when I sign contracts, I don't read anything.
But I was just thinking about that. So what does that do by?
Every 2 weeks. Can I let you guys in on something? You have till the end of the semester to turn this stuff in. If you come here on a regular basis, I will do my best to give you a passing grade. If there is something about you that forces me to dislike you, I'll probably just give you a C. If on the other hand, I have a liking for you, I'll give you a B. If I really like you because you bring me gifts,
I was impressed.
yeah, so do the best you can. Just go back and read the directions carefully and we'll go. Yes, Nayon and then Russell. Russell.
Yes. I'm having, so I don't know the question per se, but so father of 4 trying to figure out what is best for the kids, right? Like either be, because of course they have school and everything, and I want them to learn everything. I always go back and tell them what I learned today and stuff like that, so it'll help them and stuff like that, which it does, I believe. But then sometimes, like it takes the day away, like school and everything else.
For you?
No, not for, well, yeah, but I mean, I like it.
Okay.
Because I'm a kid. So my question is, I guess, when you're talking about kids, like from school age kids, is it better for education, or is it better to be what they call a kid and go play and play video games or whatever like that?
Education has been problematic for a long time. It's nothing new. We have had schools such as this, and some people have come to realize it's no good. We have had underground education, where you have cults like Plato, like Aristotle, like Jesus Christ, like Rudolf Steiner. All these people have come to realize that the way society creates education and the way that education is applied, it doesn't take people very far. In fact, it dumbs them down. It kind of kills their passion. It's something that Einstein also talked about, which is that schools have a tendency of destroying whatever inspiration that lives inside you, you know. Now, having said all of that, there are, first, what's important is the age of your children. From 0 to 6 or 7, they virtually just need to be left alone. I mean, you need to kind of be there, helicoptering them from far above, making sure that nothing drastic is entering their life. Because what you certainly don't want to do, I'll tell you the story. Some years ago, our kids were going to this school, and I think they were about like 3 or 4, and one of the parents sent us an email saying, "My son wants to be referred as a she, no longer a he." You know, and I understand this culture. I understand how things are moving. About 29% of millennials now consider themselves to be not a he or a she, but something different, you know. And as Bill Maher would say, by the time it's 2050, almost all of us will be something other than what we are. The way this culture is going and this movement is taking place. Whether it's fashionable, whether it's trendy, whether it's biological, psychological, I don't really want to get close to that. But as long as your kids, and I say that because, kids want to do a lot of things. You know, your son wants to be Sonic one day, Batman another day, I don't know, Spider-Man another day. If you were to kind of just say, okay, you be that, and then you be this, and you be that, then by the time he's like 9 or 10, if you take that stuff very seriously, he wouldn't know what he is, So, and it happens to a lot of people. You're in high school, you have great parents, great background, you're heterosexual. You go into high school, you see all sorts of different advertisements, all of a sudden you become homosexual. Then you kind of move your body into a different setting, different sets of advertisement come your way, then you become bisexual. Now, you want to call this organic, you can. You want to call it manufactured, you can. But the point I'm trying to make is all of us have no choice but to be victims of advertisement. Okay? Now, as a concerned father, as a concerned parent, or as someone who's concerned about the images that enter your mind, the question is, well, what exactly do you want to be exposed to? Because if you keep having arguments, for example, with your wife, well, that's how the kids are going to see it. Whenever there is a disruption in an environment that's calm, you can't sit and just talk, you scream. So when they come to this class, for example, or any class, that disturbs them a little bit. What happens, they go back in time and say, how did my parents resolve the situation? By screaming. Then they begin to scream. And screaming can come in a variety of different ways. You can raise your hand and look at me and say, screw you, or this or that. You could write an email. You can go to the dean. You can, find me in the parking lot after class, all sorts of different ways. Now, your task is to make sure that whatever trigger buttons live inside your kids, they are relatively healthy. Okay? Now, I go back to Mike Tyson, and we'll go back to your question because it's very, very important. And it also goes back to Ivy's question. Remember, whatever question you ask in this class is connected to every other question that people ask. So it doesn't live in isolation. I try to connect everything to everything else, okay? When you look at the life of Mike Tyson, because he had nothing in his life, and because he was overcome by anger, disappointment, his fist was the only tool that he knew. And as he got older in life, and as he began to realize that you can be a number 1 boxer in the world, you can be Superman, but life will eventually pin you. It'll punch you. You'll go unconscious. When you wake up, you have no idea who you are, where you are, what you are. And at the age of 55 or so, when you kind of sit back and listen to Mike Tyson, He says, yeah, when I was a kid, I'm angry. Today I get angry too, but it takes a lot now for me to become explosive. Okay? It means what? If at the age of 5, for example, you look at Mike and he punches you in the face, at the age of 55, the spring that is to the board and the pin, the spring is stronger, which means you have to push really, really hard to connect the button to the board. Okay? So if at the age of 5, it only took 5 minutes, at the age of 55, it's going to take you a month of pushing.